call to order the annual town meeting of the town of Upton for 2019. I want to ask the town clerk if the warrant is legal.
Yes, the warrant is legal according to the bylaws for the town of Upton, and that's state law.
So I figure we have another 5 or 10 minutes worth of people standing outside coming in. So we will recess until 7:10, so stay where you are. Remain in your seats. You can chat a little bit during the next 10 minutes. Once we reconvene, we will be ready to go. Thank you very much. We'll recess till 7:10. Now reconvene this annual town meeting at 7:14. So I asked the town clerk to believe that the warrant is legal, and it is. So now I would like to ask if Mr. Doherty could come forward to us.
Good evening and welcome to the annual town meeting. Can everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And while we're all standing, can we just take a moment of silence for all our citizens that have passed away in the past year?
Thank you very much. So I'm going to read off a list of the visitors here. So after I read this list, I will then ask for a motion to accept these visitors. Dennis Westgate, Representative David Meridian, Chief DeFonso, Fire Department. Mr. Westgate is from DPW. Dr. Fitzpatrick, Valley Tech. James Bullets, Kenny Costa. Janice Nowicki, Council on Aging. Owen Brigham, I think he's a student here from the school, so best behaviors, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Pamela Goodwin, Suki Roberts, Brenda, I think it's Picardo, is that correct? Okay. Jay Byer, Maureen Cohen, Derek Brindisi, Town Manager, Michelle Sanford, Andrew St. George from the Recreation, Dr. Maruschek, thank you. And let's see, David Reiser, Matthew Baxtol, Library, Paul Marchand, Justin Pollard, Malgozada, Klesnablatt, Marek Blatt, and Lori Savick. Okay, so moved. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting those visitors, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. So, I'd like to thank all the tellers, people from Cablevision, the police department, and Nipmuc Regional High School for allowing us to be here this evening. I do like to ask if you could all either turn off your cell phones or put it on vibrate or whatever it is, so that if and when someone calls you, it doesn't make a lot of noise and disrupt us during the meeting. Okay, thank you very much. So I want to ask, how many of you here are first-time attendees to town meeting? Please stand up. First-time attendees, come on, be brave. Very good, let's give them a hand. Thank you very much, and hopefully you'll come back even after we get through this meeting tonight. So many of you who have been here for a number of years know that at the annual town meeting, I always go through this 5-minute rigmarole of what we do here. Why do I do that? For 2 reasons. One, because those of you who have been here for a while know that it's important to hear this again and again, and sometimes it changes a little. But especially for those of you who are brand new to this, you're going to hear this all for the first time, and basically the most important thing I can say to you is watch and learn. That's how you get things done, that's how you figure things out. So I'll go through the general format. So what we have here, as is true with every annual town meeting, we have what's called a warrant, and a warrant is short for warning. It's a warning to tell you that A is a meeting and B what's going to be on the meeting. The warrant has been posted at the town hall, it's been posted in the post office and in the library, okay, for up to 1 week before the meeting. It is also on the website now, so thank you electronics for allowing us to do that. And as we go through the warrant, I will then mention which article it is, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down, that we will be dealing with. And when that happens, I'll ask a person to come forward and to make a motion based on that article. So the article is a general idea of what we're going to talk about. The motion is very specifically what we're going to talk about. So the general idea that, some amount of money to do something with, let's say, the fire department. Then the motion will be a specific amount, where it comes from, and what we're going to do with it. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. Most of the motions we have tonight will be financial in nature. That being the case, I'll ask the Finance Committee for their recommendation. And there may be other committees, like the Capital Budget, or sometimes the Planning Board, or sometimes the Community Preservation Committee. I'll ask them for their recommendations as well. After that happens, I will then ask for a second on the motion. Well, that would have probably already happened, but that's fine. And then, after that, the person who made the motion will then have an opportunity to speak about what they want you to vote on, and why they should vote for, why you should vote for what they want to do. Once they're done, I open it up to general discussion. So all you're going to do is raise your hand, call you come to the microphone, state the first time you speak, please state your name and address so that we know that you are a resident, and then speak by either asking your question or making a comment about the motion that is currently on the floor. It's as straightforward as that. After whatever discussion we have, and by the way, you'll notice there are some motions where there is no discussion at all, and that's fine, because if you don't have any questions, that's okay. But there'll be motions where there'll be a lot of discussion. That's okay too. That's why we have the town meeting. Okay, then after that, we vote on it. Now, any motion or amendment to motion, I'll talk about that in a second, must be in writing and handed to me. What is an amendment? An amendment is a minor change to the motion that's being recommended. So for example, if somebody wants to spend $50,000 to do something, but you feel like, you know what, we can get that piece of equipment for $40,000 and this is why, you can make an amendment to make it lower to $40,000. We will then discuss the amendment, and then we'll vote on that, and then we'll go back to the original motion, either amended if your amendment passed, or if your amendment failed, we go back to the motion as it originally came. Okay? So the most important thing is only one person can speak at a time. So if I'm speaking, you're listening, hopefully you're listening, thank you. If someone else is speaking, I'm listening, and you are all still listening to that person speaking. The only time you can interrupt a speaker is if you have some sort of a point of order. Usually a point of order is, Mr. Moderator, I can't hear the speaker, because they're too far back from the microphone maybe. So I'll say thank you, I'll ask the speaker to go forward, and then they will continue speaking. And probably the last thing before we get going is, the civility that we have here at this town meeting has always been really good. That needs to continue. I'm not going to talk about the way things are in other parts of this country or other parts of the world with regard to how people talk about each other or treat each other. Here, at the Upton Town meeting, we are civil to each other. So therefore, if someone says something and you may disagree with that, and you come up after them, you can say, I disagree with the previous speaker, and this is why I disagree with them. You don't come up and say, Joe doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. You don't do that, because that's what gets things going in the wrong direction. Every now and then, we chuckle about it a little bit, and maybe when I talked about it 20 years ago, it wasn't that big a deal. Well, in 2019, it is a big deal. This town meeting will remain civil as long as I am your moderator. So, thank you very much. If, in the rare instance that it's necessary for me to ask a speaker to stop speaking because they are saying that they should, I will simply say, Sir or Madam, step back from the microphone. I will then inform them of what it is that they were doing wrong. I will then ask them if they can continue, because then they've had a chance to think about it. If they say yes, I will give them the opportunity to continue. And as long as they're okay, that's fine. If for some reason the infraction starts up again, I will then ask them to take their seat. If they refuse to take their seat, I will ask them to leave the meeting. If for some reason they don't, and it looks like they still can't handle the things, then I will ask them to be removed from the meeting. I've never even gotten past the fact once in my 27 years, only once or twice have I had to ask someone to sit down. That's as far as I've ever had to do this. And I want to keep it that way. Okay, good. Let's see. Before we get to the consent calendar, which will be group things together, I do want to ask Mr. Flaherty, I know there's a member of the Finance Committee that wanted you to speak about something with regard to this weekend, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As many people who've lived here for a while recall, there used to be a Little League parade, generally on the last Sunday in April, and it was referred to in this town as Loyalty Day. Well, since the Little League merged with Mendon, the parade has fallen by the wayside. However, Loyalty Day still lives. This year it will be held on Saturday, May 4th at 9 a.m. on the Upton Town Common. The ceremony will include the laying of a wreath at the Vietnam War Monument and the presentation of the Massachusetts Medal of Liberty to the widow of Lieutenant Richard Rand. Dickie Rand was a fellow I grew up with. He went to Vietnam, and he was there a very short time, and he made the supreme sacrifice. His name is on one of the fields, I believe, at the VFW, right? Yeah. But there will be a more formal recognition on Saturday. His wife and I guess his daughter will be here to receive a presentation from the VFW. In addition, Nipmuc Youth Baseball, which is what they call the old Upton Youth Club, I guess, will be honoring the memory of Doug Keniston prior to the 11 a.m. game at the VFW fields. So, Mr. Craig will be with us tonight. He's the commander of the VFW post, and he asked me if I would just read this so that people know what's going on, particularly people of my vintage who knew Mr. Rand might like to go. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. If I could just add one last point to this. When you leave the building tonight, I think it's down the right-hand side. I believe there's a photo of Mr. Rand, and underneath it is his, because his name's on the wall in Vietnam, his name is etched there in pencil. And if you look at the dates of when he was born and when he passed away, it will be very interesting when you see that. So I just wanted to make that comment about that. So thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Okay, so at this point, we're going to start the meeting with regard to the warrant article. So for a number of years now, we have had something what's called a consent calendar. What that means is these are motions which there is never any discussion about them, but we have them on the warrant, so they have to be loaded. So we vote them as one group without any discussion. So, is there a member of the Board of Selectmen that would like to make a motion for the consent calendar, please?
I move that the town vote by unanimous consent the following articles that have not been requested vote. Those articles being 1, 8, 12A, 12C, 13, and 14.
Thank you. And just so you know what those are, Article 1 is just accepting the annual report. Article 8 is to select funds from the state of Massachusetts that we do every year to work on roads. It's a reimbursement to us from the state. Article 12A is a revolving, is a CPC funding that happens every year into the specific funds. 12C is the same thing. 13 is, the Board of Assessors, every year they have to spend money going through what they go through. There's never any discussion on that. And then Article 14 is the Conservation Fund of $5,000 that we have every year. So, there's been a motion to vote those as a consent. Is there any one that has to be held at all? Because if not, we will then just go and vote on them as a group. Okay, seeing none being held, all those in favor of voting these motions by unanimous consent, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. At this point, we will show the video that we're rolling through a little bit. And as Madam Town Clerk has mentioned, there's been some changes to the way we go through the budget process. So, for those of you who are brand new to this, it's not going to be any different for you. It's going to be for you for the first time. But for the rest of us who've been used to doing it a certain way for 15 to 20 years, it's a little bit different. So, watch, learn, and then I will explain it again when I need to. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, I'm Upton Town Manager Derek Mizzi. As you all know, town meeting is fast approaching, and I'm hoping you, as a registered voter, are planning on attending, as there are a number of different policy matters and budgetary matters that town meeting must take action on, like Article 2, our annual operating budget. As you review the Finance Committee's report, you will see that the town's budget has increased 3.9% from the previous year. This increase is due to a number of different factors that are unfortunately beyond the town's control. These budget drivers will be featured in other short videos that you can learn in more detail in the causes for such increases. You will find as you review the budget, the regional school budget has increased 5.4% or $570,000 from the previous year. You will note the Board of Health trash and recycling budget has increased by over 33%, or an additional $120,000 from FY19. You will find the town's pension obligation has increased by 11.4%, or $60,000, with contractual wages having increased by 2.5%. Again, the increase to this year's budget is 3.9%, or a total of $900,000 from the previous fiscal year 2019 budget. As you review this year's budget, you will notice the school budget represents 56% of our total costs, with fixed costs such as pension, insurance, and debt payments hovering around 13%, while the town's portion to operate general government such as fire, police, DPW, and library is hovering around 31% of our total operating costs. Last year in fiscal 19, the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee did make a concerted effort to minimize the burden on our taxpayers. And by doing so, they were able to save our taxpayers $250,000 that went left back to the taxpayers in excess levy capacity. Unfortunately, given the increases that I previously discussed, the town will need to raise the 2.5%, which is allowed in the Prop 2.5, plus the additional $250,000 that was left in excess capacity from last year. Over the previous 3 months, the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Capital Budget Committee have all reviewed, in concert with department heads, each line item in great detail in order to find cost savings and efficiencies in every effort to mitigate unnecessary overruns and future long-term liabilities. Within the best of our ability, we have presented to you the FY20 budget. Hey folks, these are big numbers, and we know that. If you have questions, please attend the Finance Committee's annual budget hearing on April 24th, 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. At that hearing, you'll be able to meet with Finance Committee members, Board of Selectmen members, and Capital Budget Committee members and have all your questions answered in greater detail. I also hope to see you all on May 2nd at our annual town meeting, Nipmuc High School, 7 p.m. in the auditorium. I hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Okay, so before we also talk a little bit about the change in the process that we go through the line items, I neglected to mention at the very beginning of the meeting, this September, I started to work part-time at the Upton Regional School District. I work 9 to 12 hours a week. I'm telling you this because I am an employee of the school district. Okay? I talked to town council about this, and she said that it is no conflict for me to moderate the meeting, and if a question comes up about the school budget or something with respect to the school, oh, I'm sorry. So if anything comes up with regard to the school system, and I will then make the determination whether I can moderate that question or not. So I wanted to let you know that now, so thank you very much. So I have a question. Do you want to go through the thing again about the line items changing, or do you want me to just sort of explain it? Because I think everyone's seen it now. Okay, fine. All right. No, that's fine. So, when you were coming in, there was a video that was rolling through here with regard to the way we go through the budget process. We will do that now. So again, if you remember in the past, we go through groups of departments, and there'd be a section you'd look at, and I'd say, does anybody want to hold this item? We're still doing that the exact same way. The problem is the format is just different. That's all, but we're still going to do the same process as we go through it. So what I want you to do is get your Finance Committee report booklet, for those of you who have this, and if you don't, share, look, bond with someone, and turn to the section where it says, on the bottom right-hand side, page 1 of 63. I'll give you a chance to do that. And in the upper left-hand corner, it's going to say, Upton Budget Fiscal Year 2020 Summary, Group 1, Account Number 113, Town Meetings, Elections. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to go through this page by page or group by group like I have done in the past. What you need to look at is column number 3, where it says, Budget Rev/TM Fiscal Year 2020. That's the number which is being recommended and that we will vote on at the end. So, if you want to hold something because you don't like the number that's in there, then you just yell hold. I'll ask you which one it is, and you tell me specifically which item you're holding. Now, you might think, oh my God, we just got this tonight. No, it's been on the website for a month now. Okay? The books have been out for a long time, so people who really are interested in looking at the budget, you've had a chance to do that. Okay? So that's why we're still going to use the same process, even though the format is different. So, the only real difference is that you're going to look at 60 some odd pages instead of like 13 pages. That's pretty much what's going to be different about it. So, are there any questions before we begin this process? Okay, seeing none, let's start. So, page 1 of 63. Thank you very much, Madam Town Clerk. We first need to have a motion read before we go through this process. Sorry about that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote fix the salaries and compensation of all officers of the town as provided by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, as amended, and to raise and appropriate $23,891,879 to defray the expense of the town's department for the ensuing year, as set forth in the document entitled Finance Committee Report, Town of Upton, Massachusetts, Fiscal Year 2020 Budget Recommendation, for all those items not requested hold, and as amended, if able, by vote of town meeting, for those items requested hold.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. So, again, what this paragraph says is what I just explained to you. Now, some of you might be thinking, why do we go through every single line item? Well, years ago, we literally went through every single line item, one at a time. Now we do them in groups, okay? But it still gives you as a citizen the opportunity to see the budget, and if you have a question about something, ask that question. That's why we do this. Okay? Good. So, account number 113, town meetings, elections. Okay? Next page, 114, town moderator. It's page 2. Next section, account number 122, Selectmen.
Hold. You gotta hold here.
Thank you. Hold on what?
I'm not sure how to read this thing. Your selectmen expense, I think, increases by 555%.
There you go. So it's 29,500. So you're going to hold that, which is fine. So we will hold that. Selectmen expenses. I just have to put little sticky notes here, folks. Just give me a minute. Thank you. Okay. $123, Town Manager, page 4. Page 5, account number 131, Finance Committee. Um, 132, Reserve Fund. 135, Accountant. 137, Capital Budget Committee. 141, Assessors. Now we're on page 10. Account 145, Treasurer Collector. 151, Legal Department. Page 12, account number 152, Personnel. Account number 158, Tax Title Foreclosure. $159, Cable Committee. Hold on Cable Committee. Which account name?
Technology expense.
Very good. 117, 250, Spilled Hill. Thank you. Uh, 161, Clerk. 163, Registration. 171, Conservation Commission. Oh, excuse me, Conservation Committee. 175, Planning Board. 184, Housing Authority. 192, Public Building, Town Hall. Page 21, Department 210, Police. And that goes all the way to page 22. 215, Dispatcher. Page 24, account number 220, Fire Department. And that goes down the next page. 232, Ambulance Service. 241, Building Inspector. 291, Civil Defense. 292, Animal Control. 294, Forestry/Tree Planting. $299, Animal Control. Hold on Animal Control. Which number? Which line item?
It was only one line item.
The expenses?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. 300, Education.
Hold.
A hold on Education. Which number?
MU operation expenses, 11,731,900.
Men that have been operating and not, yep, that's held. Uh, 421 DPW. 422 Highway Construction Maintenance. 423 Highway Snow Ice. 433 Waste Removal. Oh, gee, wonder why. Wasn't expecting a hole on that one. Yes. Which one?
I-22.
Number, the whole thing. The 412 or the 110 or both?
412.
Okay, the 412 number is held. Okay? 440 sewer. 450 water. 491 cemetery. 510 Board of Health. And that goes to the next page. 522 Health Service. 541 Council on Aging. 543 Veterans. 610 Library. 630 Beach. Okay, let's do them one at a time. Somebody tell me the name first. Anybody?
Recreation Beach.
Recreation Beach, which is 23,200. Is there anything else being held, or is that it?
Also, the next one, expenses,
And expenses?
7,000.
Yep, so that's recreation miscellaneous expenses beach program. Thank you. Hold on, one at a time. I'm sorry. The person who talked about the beach programs, you had something else to say? No? Okay. Is there anything else being held?
25 revolving.
Revolving. Yep. Well, that's all right. So you're holding the recreation revolving other expenses, which is currently at 0. That's being held?
Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you. Yep. So is that it for that one? Okay, so there's 3 being held there. 650 parks. Okay. Next one. 691 historical committee. Okay. 710 retirement of debt. And there are 3 sections there: general, enterprise, and enterprise. 725 debt service, short-term interest. 751 interest on long-term debt. Which is this long-term debt?
Yeah, on the long term, the 226, 790.
226, 7.
725.
Oh, okay, that's the short-term interest. So is it a specific, either the short-term interest or long-term interest, or just the total?
The long term.
Okay, long-term interest, which is 116,500. Okay, thank you. 751, long-term debt. Okay. 820, state assessment. 911, retirement. 913, unemployment compensation. 916, payroll taxes. Just about there. 945, liability insurance. 950, trust fund committee. And 990, Transfers out. That's open.
Other post-employment benefits.
That's what that is.
I don't understand.
Other post-employment benefits. The OPEB account that we put for instead of pension, it's the monies that go toward health insurance and other benefits for retirees.
And is that it? That is it. Okay. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 6 being held, 7 being held. So, at this point, we have a motion to accept everything that hasn't been held. Okay. So, all those in favor of... Well, it already has been seconded. It was seconded before, I think, to do this, right? And Finance Committee recommendation.
Favorable action, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Fleming. Okay, so all those in favor of voting on those that were not held, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. We will now go through each one that was held. The first one is what department? Department 122. So, the selectmen expense, so the person that held it, if you could come to the microphone, please, state your name and address and ask your question.
Don Carney, 55 School Street, Upton.
No one?
Did you get my name?
Yes, thank you, Joan.
Okay. I just questioned the total under general expenses that has risen to 565%.
Okay, could someone explain the reason for such a large increase?
Ma'am, we added this $25,000 for like appraisal, survey, engineering services, and other items to support the economic development. For example, we have Article 18 coming up later tonight, which is some land that's being donated. So we have to have that land surveyed. Previously, we've been paying for this out of trust funds, and so we don't have to complete the trust fund accounts. We'd rather have like general operating money to pay for these type of expenses.
So the appraisals have nothing to do with the other department that does the appraisals?
The assessor's office.
The assessor's office?
No, this is for other type of property,
Okay.
like donations and stuff. Like if somebody's donating property to the
Like
town.
the trash property that was donated, that type of thing?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if that's fine, is there a motion? Yes, Mr. Robertson.
John Robertson, Mechanic Street. I noticed that there was a change in Memorial Day expenses. Previous years, it was a separate line item. And I understand that that amount of money was going to be put into a selectman's account. Is this the account that the Memorial Day expenses to the veterans is included?
Good question. So the Memorial Day expenses, is that part of the selectmen expense account item?
No, nothing has changed relative to the Memorial Day expenses. There's still a budget line item in this budget under the manager miscellaneous expenses of a total of $2,400. Okay, so if you look under account number 123, there's a line item that says town manager miscellaneous expense for a total number of $43,600. Embedded in that total line item is $2,400 for Memorial Day.
So essentially, it's moved, it's not in the selectmen's expense, it's in the town manager expense. John, to answer
And
your
it's
question.
at $2,400?
It's for 2,400.
2,400.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, good. Good question. That's why we do this, folks. Okay, anything else? So if not, Mr. Flaherty, can I have a motion? Or, oh, you have a question on it? Please. Sorry.
Hi, Susan Dunphy from Grove Street. If we have that money already in another account, why do we need to raise taxes to raise that money? Instead of using what we have, and then when we need money, going back to the town for money.
Yeah, Mr. Flaherty?
When they say that this money is in a different account, we're talking about money that we're voting tonight. Okay? This isn't some phantom account that's out there somewhere. Okay? Everything that's in these lines, there's a story behind each one of them. All right? In previous years, everything was indicated, line by line by line by line by line. In the process of changing the way the presentation was made, things got collapsed into other lines. So we're not using money from some other account. We're appropriating money tonight. There's money in selectmen's expenses, there's money in town manager's expenses.
So the money in, I believe he said trust account that he did not want to deplete is in that line now?
No, I don't.
No, okay.
May I address this, please?
Yeah.
I got this.
Yep. Mr. Matine?
Just so you know, ma'am, as a rule of thumb, monies in the budget can only be used for what they are appropriated for. So things will come up over the course of the year with the Board of Selectmen. Actually, we have no spending money. We don't really have any money that we can just draw upon to do something. For instance, again, dating back to maybe a year and a half ago, we received a piece of property, town meeting voted on it, it's for a bus turnaround on Brook Street. In order to get that recorded, surveyed, and transferred in the ownership of the town of Upton, we now have to put together a warrant article. So you will see later in the program, you'll see a warrant article for that particular purpose. All right, there's other requests. EDC had asked us for some money to promote the town of Upton. We don't have any money. The board really has very little money. We can't just say, well, we'll take it out of this or that. This is basically setting up a fund for the Board of Selectmen to use monies if we need them during the course of the year for, let's say, a printing, something that, or a survey, something of that nature. It doesn't mean that we're going to take that $25,000 and use it for wages or some other, erroneous use that should be covered elsewhere in the budget. So it's really, in my opinion, it's kind of almost like FinCom's reserve money, but ours will be used for a little different purpose. More or less legal things, maybe printings, or again, if there's a request, we see that money should be expended on behalf of the town.
So, just to be clear, when you say more or less legal things, everything's legal that we do. So I think you mean things like, well, I'm just trying to help you out here, Mr. Matine. So does that answer your question or
What
not?
I'm referring to is when they talked about the $25,000 and our town manager said we normally take it out of a different account.
Right.
But instead of depleting those funds, now we want to add it to a line for the selectmen's account.
Something
That's
to do
where
with
I
the
had
trust
confusion.
funds, I think,
Yes,
right?
it had to
Okay,
do-
yeah,
so
that's
why
what the question
why
is
are we
about.
taking it out of the trust funds instead of putting it in the selectmen's budget for those appraisals as we have in the past?
Right. In this particular instance, it would be in my opinion that we'd have to consult legal on this, but we couldn't use beautification money, for instance. Let's just say hypothetically we'll want to do a title search, a survey, and record the deed for that parcel I was mentioning regarding Brook Street. We don't have the ability to really do that I don't see that we have that ability through all our trust funds. They're usually earmarked for a purpose. As you may have seen in some of our most recent meetings, we had some requests from the school department. There's money in trust funds for schools, money for beautification, money for scholarships. there's money in there for different things. This is kind of, I would say, you know, you have holes where this is kind of a catch-all, where we may be able to mitigate some problems. I mean, it would not be my opinion that we would be spending this money every year. Whatever doesn't get spent, you know, will fall to next year's bottom line.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on this particular line item? Selectmen expenses, 29,500. Sir.
That means South Street, 49 South Street. I think you kind of answered the question about next year and the year after. Is this going to be something? This is a big increase. Is it going to increase, or is it going to flatline? Is it going to go back down? Is this just an anticipation of some big things that you guys see this year, and perhaps it won't be there next year?
I mean, I'd like to say that we would always use judgment. If there's something that we feel should go to a warrant article, we would then take that, if there was a request for the board, let's say, to do some sort of a study. I would like to think that we would say, okay, we're going to not use this money. We're going to go ahead and put it on a warrant article. As you know, we meet twice a year, so typically if something comes up in the course of the year, we would always have the ability to address it either here in May or in November. I can't speak to what this will look like next year. I wouldn't think it would go up. And you folks would always have the ability, if you don't like it or you think that we're being foolish with it, by all means, you're not going to hurt my feelings if you want to dock it back to $5,000 or $4,000 or whatever you choose, whatever the floor chooses that be.
Okay.
All right.
Sir?
Thank you.
Ralph Whitney, 11 Hartford Ave. I was just wondering about this free money fund. What's that used for?
Are you talking about the trust fund? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about money that's needed that we already have for...
Are you talking about what's called free cash?
Yeah, the free cash or whatever.
That's a more general type statement with regard to.
Okay, I may not get it perfectly.
No, that's fine.
I'm just wondering. I understand that they have a lot of money.
Well,
you know,
that's a great question.
It's a very good question.
That's a great question. I don't know if it's specifically to this particular item, but I don't know if anybody wants. But that's okay. If somebody wants to address that quickly.
I'd like to actually have Kenny Costa address that.
Yeah, could you address that, Kenny?
He can better describe where it comes, how it accrues, where it actually comes.
Okay, I got one more question after that.
Kenny Costa, Town Accountant, the moderator. So the city, or the town does have free cash, and that free cash is certified annually in the fall. So we're on a fiscal year, so our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30th. So on June 30th, once the books close, we have revenues and expenditures, they all net, they fall to the bottom line. And then we also have free cash that was not appropriated from the prior year. And then what happens, we submit our balance sheet to DOR, they verify all the figures, they go and they review our calculation, and that's the free cash, and that's what we call designated fund balance. That's what's left over. So imagine that, as a company, there's a profit and loss statement, so at the end, that would be the net. And free cash can only be appropriated for municipal type of expenditures. It's one-time revenues. That's not something I would, DOR, they don't recommend using one-time revenues for operating. So generally, one-time revenues, you would use that money for capital type of expenditures, but those are reserves. And this is something that the bond rating agencies, they look at, Moody's and S&P, they want to look at and see if the town has reserves. If there's an emergency in the town, can they react to that emergency? Do they have funding? So that's something that free cash, it's a tool, it's a great thing, but it's something that you do have to spend wisely, because once you spend it, it goes away. It doesn't come back until you generate that free cash in the next year.
Well, I mean, in defense of us paying the taxes, wouldn't we want a lean, a lean type system, okay? From what I've seen, I've been to a few of these meetings, and you people throw out a number on certain articles, and it gets voted on because you have 100 people come to the meeting,
Well,
And
okay.
they vote on it, okay.
That's fine, but you're getting out the specifics of this particular item, so, I mean, I don't mind if you get off a little
Okay,
bit on it, but
who and when would I talk to somebody about all this? And I'd kind of like to have everybody else here, you know, these issues. I mean, I don't want to come and talk to one person, a selectman, and just, you know, have it between, you know.
Sure.
I have a lot of issues with what I've seen going on in these things.
fair enough. So I will give an answer to this question. Given your statement with regard to overall finances, I think the best place to go to is the finance committee. When they meet, it's always a posted meeting. You can have a conversation with them about where's the money coming from, where's it going to, how do you work at the process. That to me, and FinCom, I hope you don't mind if I put you guys on the spot there, because you're the guys that deal with the money, right? So wouldn't it make sense for the people to come to you and ask questions? I see some heads shaking, but not all of them. So, I mean, in all seriousness...
I mean, really, I mean, I've heard some outrageous numbers, so I'm saying that they're gonna end up getting the job done for less. Where's all this other extra money go? Into this free money fund that we don't use?
Well, okay. It's all a process. Some of it goes into stabilization, some's into free cash, and some of it gets used to buy equipment or whatever it is.
Well, we end up having an article where we're paying for that equipment on top of all that stuff going on.
Okay, and again, that's a great question, but it's a question for the finance committee, and we're on a specific item right now, so, okay? So, I'm sorry I can't answer it directly.
Well, that's how it goes.
No, but
Every time I get a question, that's how it goes.
talk with the finance committee about it,
Okay.
please,
Yeah,
okay?
okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else on this particular line item? Not, we need to have a motion made. Yep, that's it.
I move the town raise and appropriate $49,500 for the purposes of selectmen expenses.
Second? Moving to second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next one that was held was 159 Technology. The person who held that, please come to the microphone.
Thank you, Proxy Cranberry Circle. On this line item, there is a 50% increase in technology expense of $39,500 from last year. I'd just like to know what that money is being spent for, why it's this special expense this year. What's the cable technology?
Okay.
Oh, 3 Cranberry Circle, David Brooks.
Okay.
Thank you. Through the moderator, so I'm also in charge of the IT department, and if you remember, this mic is no longer working. Can you hear me now?
I move to raise $50 microphones.
It's not the microphones, it's the batteries, folks, you know?
And they didn't leave us any, so I apologize. So, everyone can hear me now? So, the technology, if you remember back at the special town meeting in November, we proposed to change our IT vendor from one company to a different company, and in order to do that, there was an increase of about $60,000 a year to do that. This increase represents the new yearly fee that we will be paying to the new IT vendor.
Why did you choose a more expensive IT vendor?
The technology committee did a request for proposals to look at different IT vendors because we hadn't looked at IT vendors in about 7 or 8 years. And we wanted to see what other services were out there. And this new IT vendor gave us, we felt was giving us more security and more hands-on monitoring that would give us, protect us versus the cybersecurity out there.
Thank you. I found that answer acceptable.
Okay, Kelly McKelliff, I move that we raise and appropriate $117,250 for line item 159 technology expenses.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next one that was held, $2.99. Folks, please, with the chatter, thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. Page 32. Thank you.
Ellen Arnold, 54 Ridge Road, and I don't have a problem with the expense, it's more of a procedural question.
Okay.
Can I hear it?
Yeah, you're all set.
I noticed that 292 is animal control, and you said that every department, all of their expenses would be on one page, but there are a couple of things in between, so I'm just wondering why 299 wasn't 292, actually. I can address that.
Somebody says they can answer that question, so. That does look like the same kind of thing, but maybe it's different, so.
This actually line item should be under the DPW. This is for like dead animals on the side of the road, they come and pick it up.
Okay.
It's listed under animal control, but it's not part of the board of health. I think the new software, it just slips
Okay.
into a wrong spot.
So it's one of those things where they'll have, the folks who are doing the budgets and stuff will have to take a look and make sure that the different departments get into the right sections. That would be the good way to put it, so. Okay, thank you. So do I have a motion here? FinCom, yeah?
What line item are we talking about?
Yeah. Page 32, Mr. Flaherty.
$1,200?
That's it.
Mr. Moderator, I move we raise and appropriate $1,200. $1,200 for the purposes of animal disposal services.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next, 300, which is page 33. Amend and upton operating expense, sir.
David Brooks, the Cranberry Circle. In the cover letter to the Finance Committee's report, you said that the school district had originally requested an $815,000 increase, and you came out with $572,000, which is a reduction of 243, not 223 you say there, simple mental arithmetic, I expect. So you've reduced the request by 243 with respect to the town, so reduce our taxes. But you say the cost of doing that is we're being asked to eliminate services and 8 to 10 positions, but no idea what they are, what the services are, what the positions are, and then you say, and let the town decide whether to accept the lower or the higher number. I don't think you can make such an important decision without knowing what positions our kids, teachers are being eliminated. Does anybody have any information we can use to make that judgment? And I reserve the right to make an amendment.
Is Dr. Maruschek here?
Certainly am.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Maruschek?
Thank you. What is being put forward represents a level services budget, which means it would be keeping in place exactly what we have. And what was put forward originally was an increase in positions that we feel were critically necessary, specifically two district-wide school psychologists, a additional special ed education team chair, so that each of our buildings would have one, and an additional wellness teacher. We had a lengthy conversation with both boards of selectmen and both finance committees, and really, as we have over the last 8 years, really worked this out collaboratively and kind of taking everything into account. I think those positions, quite frankly, given the stress and anxiety that exists, I think in general in society and that we see in our schools as microcosms, are important, but we also are planning and balancing not only for this year, but moving forward.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Sir?
I'm going to comment after discussion. I will not propose an amendment.
Okay, thank you. So we need a motion to put the money in there. Mr. Flaherty? The big number, 11 million, something or other?
The 11 million. Mr.
Yeah.
Moderator, I move the town raise and appropriate $11,721,117 for funding the Mendon Upton operating expense.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded for that amount. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Next is 433, which is page 38. Page 38. Helen.
I'm sorry, going on
Yeah.
for Ridge Road, and I do believe several people held it. But I just feel like we need a discussion on the pickup of the recyclables.
Sure.
If you watch the excellent video that was presented, it raises questions in my mind. Should we choose not to have the recyclables picked up, or should we choose to put them into trash? It reduces our budget considerably for that particular budget. So if we do that and fund that we're not going to have recyclables picked up, they'll either go in the trash or I don't know, at some point somebody said something about taking them to a different town. Will there be some sort of committee or group to look at this and kind of figure out where we should go with it? I've had experience, my husband and I have had a chance, have been up north in New Hampshire cleaning out some properties that were in the family, and we've had experience with several towns that had very good recycle facilities, very efficient. They were actually, all of them were multi-town facilities. And so I'm wondering if there's going to be a committee addressing this and what we can do with our recycles and keep the costs down.
Thank you. Is there somebody here who can address that specific issue, either from the Board of Health or Board of Health? Is there anyone here from the Board of Health who can help us with this? Thank you. Made the put down the spot. It's an important question.
It's actually a great question. We have been working on this for over a year, knowing that the recycling problem is coming down the road. So just so that you know, we're not taking this lightly.
No.
We know that what we have right now is a good service, so we're presenting the budget to include recycling. If somebody doesn't want to move forward with that, then we can have more discussion. But right now, we've got the recycling in the budget. As far as the committee, we don't have, the committee's been me and the board this past year, and like I said, we've done extensive research. We have no problem with anybody that wants to come and present some new ideas. We're more than happy to listen to anything that anybody has to say. As of right now, there is not a committee. We'll have to take a look at that depending on what you guys decide to do tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Holman?
Just so everybody gets an idea, through the chair, Alfred Holman, 48 Mechanic Street. We've toyed with this idea and this problem for some time. As you probably have all seen on the news, recycling has become a big issue worldwide. China's not taking it anymore, and what goes through, they have to sort over at Harvey's, where we send our recycling. So what's happened is the cost of recycling has gone up significantly. It's about a $120,000 increase per year. Now, we're going to overcome part of that with a slight increase in the bag prices for the bags. But there's still going to be an increase that we're going to have to cope with. The choices are, as you said, take it to another town. If we take it to another town, each one of us will have to pay a fee to take it to another town. Another choice is to have a facility here to collect recyclables. There is no space anywhere in town that we can do that in a reasonable manner, so we'd have to identify some space in town. The DPW, there's just not enough room in there to set up an organized way to collect recyclables. The other alternative is to not collect recyclables, is to put it in the mainstream trash, which will increase our rate of what we go to Wheelabrator. So that'll increase a little bit. The other choice is for everybody to deal with their own trash. Now, if anybody's, I personally use a trash group, Harvey personally, because I have a business, and that costs me $81 a quarter. And so if you do it through the town and we increase the $120,000, the impact per month is going to be $10 a month to the taxpayer, essentially on your taxes. So the cheapest mechanism to do this, or the lowest cost mechanism to do this for the taxpayer will be to increase it to $120,000. That's what we're fighting right now. I mean, there aren't a lot of choices. Nobody wants it, but everybody's got it. And if we take it off, if we don't do it anymore, I don't know if any of you remember what it was like before we had trash pickup, but there was a lot of trash that people dropped by the side of the road. As a result of having curbside pickup, we have a much cleaner town, generally speaking. So those are the downsides of making changes, and that's why we put it on here to let people decide. If you have anybody has any questions,
Thank you. Sir.
Barry Lynn, 66 Markwood Lane. I'm a new resident. I've been here 6 months or so. Okay.
A little closer.
I'm a new resident. I've been here about 6 months.
Okay.
I moved here from one of the surrounding towns of Westboro, and we always brought our recycling directly to Harvey's. So I believe that if you took the $120,000 out, that we would save money for those that want to recycle, could bring the recycling to Harvey's. I would ask that be amended so that we could save on the $120,000. Because I honestly think, take it to Harvey's, you do your own sorting, it's free. There is no cost for that. But this is a big increase in the trash pay.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Sir? Thank you. I was waiting for someone to do it.
Greg Manning, 49 East. I got a couple of questions about this. One is that it's approximately, the bags yield about $220,000. Is that included in the 412, or is that in addition to the 412?
Mr. Holman, do you have the answer to that?
Yeah, I can answer that. The 412 is what we contract with Harvest. The money that we get from the bags, we can't spend that until we collect it. So at the end of the year, we'll have that money, and it goes into free cash. So essentially what happens is we collect money, it goes into free cash, and then it's spent for whatever.
So instead of 412, it's really less than 200.
If we could somehow use the bags for that,
Yeah,
that would be
but
correct.
I can't spend money I don't have.
Right, we get
but
it,
you're
we get it.
charging people for the bag, which is for trash, but you're using it for something else.
No.
Okay, we can't have a big conversation about this right now, but there is a process for how this works.
We can't spend that money on anything. When we receive money in the town, it has to go back to the town. Okay, it'd be nice if they give me the money and then we could spend it on that, but that's not the way the accounting works in the town.
Okay. Well, if we're going with the third option there, that residents are responsible for paying their own trash service, then what we're really talking about is not this, this 220 is an addition to that. And I believe with this gentleman that there's a fourth option, and that's the city assists people in replacing what we currently have with residents paying individually. Now, there's a cost for doing that, but it's not $10, it's going to be more than that, because I've done this when I'm a recovering politician in another jurisdiction. I dealt with this exact problem, both
Okay.
in California and in North Carolina.
Okay.
And the city should be working with the trash collectors to help the people with this third option. Not run everybody out there by themselves. This has to be something, you are working for us, and this is the thing you can work on. Thank you.
Okay. Sir?
Hi, I'm Sandy Furman. I live at 41 Pearl Street. I strongly support keeping the service as it is. I think that the relevant number up there is not so much the $120,000, it's the $46 per year per household. I am very willing to pay $46 per year to keep a good, simple service. If you do anything else, any of the other options, the amount of, the practical consequence will be most of the recycling that is now being dealt with as recycling will be going into the landfills as trash. We're going to be going backwards 30 years rather than moving forward. This is a forward-moving town, and I don't like paying taxes any more than anybody else, but I am very happy to increase $46 a year to keep a very good system working.
Thank you. Just want to remind people to keep the chatter down. If you're not at the microphone, thank you.
Sonia Hansard-Weiner, 120 Main Street.
A little closer.
Sonia Hansard-Weiner, 120 Main Street. I really this gentleman was far more eloquent than I could be about, I think, the importance of maintaining the service that we have. If that service can be built up so that we can, in fact, recycle more things, I would certainly support that. I'm 74 years old, about to be 75 years old. My husband is a year older than that. We're not really in the position to try to think about taking our recycling somewhere else where we can take it out to, the street. We generally put out more recycling than we do garbage because we're trying to save and reuse as much as possible. So I really think, I appreciate the efforts to tell people what it is, per household and or per person, rather than just looking at this giant figure and saying, and so again, I strongly support maintaining where we are. If there is the possibility of looking to something in the future, then there's nothing that says in accepting this increase in the budget that we could look to a different system in the future. But if we say no to it now, we really are giving a lot of hardship to a lot of people.
Thank you, sir.
Scott Robert from 165 North Street, and my only question is, I'm also a Westboro transplant.
Sure.
And I wanted to find out.
A little closer, sir. Thank you.
Just talk louder.
There you go.
So I just wanted to find out could there be, one of the things that I thought was kind of limiting moving to Upton was that there's no option even to get a dump sticker to go over to the Harvey complex. Our only option is, so if we have big items or something like that, we have to hope that there is a recycling day or something like that, like there was a couple of weeks ago. But if we have big ticket items, we have to wait until once a week versus making a truckload over to the facility and everything. I wanted to find out, is that even possible? Is that something that's in our calculus that we're trying to look at?
There's a person who can answer that question.
Right here. You got a couple of things you can do. You can go directly over to Harvey's, number one. But number two, let's say you have a couch. You go to the town hall, go to the Board of Health office, and they'll give you a sticker. It costs $5. It depends on what you're going to put in there. $5 to put a sticker out, and the day your trash is collected, they'll see the sticker, and they'll pick it up. So there's an option to do that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Andrews, how are you?
Good, sir. Mr. Bill Andrews, 84 High Street. I'd like to move the question.
Okay. With a motion to move the question, meaning that If 2/3 of you vote yes to move the question, it means you don't want to hear anything more about it. And at that point, I will then ask for a number to be put in there so that we can then vote on that as the line item number. So that's what you voted on now. If you don't want to hear any